So I just thought that this show really needed a double dose of Minnesota news. And so I also selected a story from our friend Peter Callahan at MinPost. I was actually on a panel with him at Lucky Leaf Expo a week ago. Great guy. He's doing great work here in Minnesota covering the news. So let's talk about his other story from the week about how tribal nations in Minnesota could become major players in our new cannabis market. So here's the story. Ongoing negotiations between Governor Tim Walz and a group of Minnesota tribal nations could make the tribes major players in the state's recreational cannabis industry, both on and off reservation land, including in urban areas. Walz was directed by last year's House File 100, our legalization bill, to negotiate, quote, in good faith with any tribes interested in entering the cannabis business, both medical and recreational. While the law acknowledges that sovereign tribes can act on their own land without agreement with the state, and 3 tribes have either opened or announced plans to open dispensaries on reservation, the law stated that the compact could, quote, proactively address jurisdictional issues related to the regulation of the cannabis industry, unquote. Walz administration officials say talks are progressing and include discussions of off-reservation cannabis businesses owned by tribes, as well as business interactions between tribal entities and state-licensed businesses. The negotiations involve 10 tribes, though not all are expected to get into cannabis cultivation and sales, said the officials who agreed to speak to MinPost on condition their names not be used because negotiations are ongoing. The one tribe not taking part is the Upper Sioux community. Messages left for officials representing several of the other tribes involved in the negotiations were not returned in time to be included. The state is being represented by staff from the Office of the Attorney General, the Office of Cannabis Management, the Governor's Office, and outside legal counsel Mark Levitan, hired to help with the negotiations. The state has not engaged in negotiations for new compacts with tribes for decades and wanted outside legal expertise on cannabis law and tribal relations, which Levitan has, the official said. Quote, these are friendly parties with the goal of getting to yes and making sure the state's needs and the tribe's needs are both met with what the statute allows, one administration official said. An agreement is not expected before the end of legislative session in 2 weeks, with the administrative officials saying they are aiming toward being ready in time for the launch of the new market. And the extent of tribal cannabis operations in the fledgling cannabis industry is the subject of speculation among lawmakers and lobbyists crafting revisions to last year's House File 100. That is, how could the details of any compact change how lawmakers and state regulators scale and stage the market? So I'm going to skip ahead. I know we're running short on time. Basically, here's the too long didn't read. The tribes are essentially getting together with the government here in Minnesota to decide, can we do business with one another? Can we do business with other regulated operations? Can we open dispensaries off reservation lands? As of right now, there are only a few recreational dispensaries open in Minnesota, all of which are on reservations and all of which are really far away from the Twin Cities metropolitan area. I think the closest one right now is like 4.5 hours. However, a new one is going to be opening this summer, about an hour south of the city by a major casino, which could bring in a lot of traffic from the Twin Cities metro and from neighboring Wisconsin. What's really interesting about these discussions is the ability for the tribes to potentially open dispensaries off of reservation lands, which would be a huge boon for them and for the communities as well. As of right now, they're opening a lot of cultivation facilities. I can tell you that. There's another one being opened in northern Minnesota I just read about this morning. And there's a chance, because the tribes are also considered social equity applicants, that they could be given some of the first meso business licenses here in Minnesota and actually be on track to become, as the article says, major players in this industry. I have yet to try any of the tribal cannabis, but I'm looking forward to once they open a new dispensary down south. So, Michelle Gordon for Green State, but reporting for MinPost today. What do you guys think about this?
Tribal trees. Look at this. Look at this. It sounds like they're about to win out there, is what it sounds like to me. It sounds like they got all the pieces to move around all of the regulatory hurdles that most operators don't have out there, and it sounds like they're going to secure the bag. Similar to like what Nuwu did in Nevada.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah, it's been really, really interesting to see these conversations play out. And I think they're going to be setting up shop far sooner than anybody else, maybe even before the medical plans here. So
I bet they do. I bet they do. Because
I
I
love
mean,
this.
yeah, this is. Go ahead, Rico.
Yeah, I'm saying I love this, and I hope that North Carolina just shuts the fuck up and watches how the other states do it, and let these tribal nations do their damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious if their product is good. I know here in California it is because they're intertwined into the culture, but I don't know if tribal nations have a lot of experience in growing cannabis.
yeah, I'm interested in trying it. I haven't had a chance yet. I've seen it, but I haven't tried it. What I saw, I was kind of like, but I also don't know how long the guy who had it in his possession, what kind of storage was being done, if it had decarboxylated. So I'd like to see some fresh shit.
Well,
hopefully I will soon, and I'll report back.
At the same time, too, wouldn't it kind of be hard to judge because most people that are going to be judging it aren't really going to know what real weed really is, and so they're not going to know any better or any different. They're just going to think it's good because that's what they're getting.
Right. But
Rochelle's going to be judging it.
What's that?
Yeah.
Rochelle's going to be judging it. She knows.
I'm the ultimate authority on what weed is good in this state.
Yeah. All right. I'm not mad at that, Rochelle. I'm not mad at that.
Just because you're from a prohibition state does not mean that you're not a connoisseur, Jason. Come on,
I didn't say that. I'm talking about the average. I didn't mention Rochelle in particularly in any way. That's trying to stigmatize me right there. Rico.
You over there, man, typecasting folks. Shit.
Oh boy.
Not everyone can smoke the best weed in the world,
I agree with that 100%, Rochelle, because if everybody else was smoking the best weed in the world, there wouldn't be any left for me. It's fair enough.
Jason is the THCA of our show.
If herb grown on a reservation is so good, why is substance abuse and alcoholism and suicide rates so much higher?
Because they haven't had the ability to grow on their land yet, Dr. Mark. They're just now getting that ability.
I don't know about who you're thinking of, but the natives that I know have been growing for 30 or 40 years, and they rely on that as important income on the reservation.
Sounds like you got some trapping natives up there, Dr. Mark.
Well, the natives out east here have been dialed into this for a while.
I mean, fair enough. I mean, who wants to go and enforce in the snow?